Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. An hour later today than normal, but here we are. Got to double check. I've been doing a bunch of course video recording, so I want to make sure all my audios and levels and stuff are good. And hopefully you're all doing well. Hello, Rob from Indianapolis, Richard, Kyle here. Hopefully he's actually there, not just dropped a popcorn in and left. Hope you're all doing well. I got a new coffee shop in my area I'm pretty stoked about. It's really good. So that's exciting. If you know me, it's like my morning routine. Wake up, get some coffee, and sit outside while it's not unbearably awfully hot in Florida. Because it's okay in the morning, and then later in the day, it's completely disgusting. And unless you're in the water, it's not good. So welcome to this stream. It's been actually yesterday was exactly a year, so that's not quite true. It's been very nearly exactly a year since the breakdance stream with Lewis and the announcement of breakdance. So a lot has changed, and I want to just connect on that, talk about what's changed and all the different paths that people took from that. And then I also want to just look at a few different things. I wanted to take a look at the GenerateBlocks 1.8 alpha and the GenerateBlocks Pro 1.6 alpha, check those out and see how it's going. And then also I want to take a look for the first time in a very long time at Oxygen. I'm considering possibly looking at bricks. So just going to kind of play around with this stuff and see what I can come up with. Just see how everything has changed. Josh says, hola, and a year since Lewis imploded the world. Yeah, it's interesting because I thought about doing a kind of like a reflection thing what I was going to do was like go watch the stream and like kind of make some notes and just kind of see some of the things that were talked about. But I sat down and I haven't watched that stream at all, a single time since it came out. And why would I, of course? But I sat down and kind of clicked on it a little bit, and I just listened to like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and I was like, nope. Not going to do it. So I decided that instead of what I'm going to do, instead of looking back and reflecting, is just kind of look at where we're at now and, just see what the future looks like. We have a lot of really amazing tools in our WordPress ecosystem, and there's a lot of time spent debating which one is best. Something I've been thinking about nonstop is Kyle's message in his weekly newsletter. If you're not subscribed to Kyle's The Admin Bar, his weekly newsletter, you definitely need to be. And he mentioned that, it's not about like class naming conventions and, the absolute pursuit of div perfection and div inception. It's about how many people are you getting in front of, who's top to market, I see, like, for instance, I don't even have a pool, and I see this company called Cox Pools riding around all the time. They're present, their signs are everywhere, their trucks are everywhere, and that really is, what makes me recognize them. So it's like, if I'm going to get a pool, those are going to be the people that come to mind first. Maybe they're not the ones that I choose, but they're probably going to be one of the first people that I call. So that's been resonating with me a lot, and it's really true of pretty much every business in any industry. It's really resonating with me, Kyle. So I'm glad you're here, because that whole, that line really resonates for so many reasons, and it's so true in our space. There's a part of me that's like, I wish we could all just get along and let people use the damn builder that they want to use. Yeah, maybe it's not like class first or whatever, but like the thing is, for me, over the last, what has it now been, 366 days, my expenses are lower than they've ever been. My revenue is up, and I'm not using a class first builder. I'm using a tool that's fantastic and that clients love to use. So it's like, what's the problem? There is no problem. So anyway, let's see. I'm not one to hold a grudge, but what Lewis did bugs me a lot. Yeah, I try not to worry about it. I let them go. I see the breakdance ads in my feed all the time, and I just smile and move along. No real reason to give it any extra thought, to be honest, which is like I already said. It's why I didn't want to spend any time going back through the other stuff, drudging up old things. There's no point. We all hopefully are in a better place, whether you stayed with Oxygen or moved somewhere else. So that's really what I wanted to focus on. And a lot has changed in a year. I mean, it's been an entire year. I still remember what I was doing that day when it came out. And it's funny because there's so many streams that I've almost not done, and then they've been fruitful for, one reason or another. And that stream, I almost didn't do. I remember getting a message from Kyle, and he was like, "Are you going to go live?" And I was like, "I don't know." He was like, "Just do it." And so I did, and of course that turned out to be a banger of a stream. So it's funny how those things happen. Kyle says, "I think you should reenact it." I would have to shave really terribly. I almost wore a gray shirt, which I think I had a gray shirt on. Oh, I got syrup on this shirt. That's good. Good thing you can't really see it, but there's some syrup right there. But I almost wore a gray shirt to slightly reenact it a little bit. The other thing I was going to say about newsletters is my two favorite WordPress newsletters that I get consistently. I'm sure there's a million others out there that people love, but my two that I actually look forward to, of course, are Kyle's every Friday. And then it's a little bit more irregular, but Sunny, I'm not even going to pronounce your last name, dude, because I haven't actually heard you say it. In my head, Sunny's last name is Trishaniak, but I don't know if that's actually right. His is called News Pulse. It's like News Pulse Labs. His newsletter is really good. He's got a good showcase of other people's, cool products going on in the space, and it's got, some interesting thoughts in there. So definitely go subscribe to him as well. By the way, hola, says Daniel. Hola, senor. Anyone use Zion Builder? I just remembered I bought an LTD and didn't really use it. There we go. The curse of the LTD. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any anticipation of checking that out. LTD of WP All Export and Import worth it before they switch over to annual? I think so, because that is one of those plugins that when you need it, you really need it, and it's just good to have it in your repertoire. So, yeah, I wanted to take a look, like I said, at some of the other stuff. Also, possibly taking a look at the automatic CSS integration with Gutenberg, because Kevin mentioned that it is working. And I wanted to take a look at that now that with GenerateBlocks, we can add in variables to our units and spacings and stuff like that. So that'll be cool to check out. I'm also really eager, like I mentioned last week in the stream, to look at the core framework. It's not ready yet to actually have a look at, and David hasn't sent me any kind of early access yet, unfortunately. But I'm really looking forward to kind of both of those implementations, because the Generate workflow is already really good. And like I've mentioned quite a few times, I don't really have to give a whole lot of thought to, the spacing and kind of alignment and stuff. It's all really easy to do, but it should, with these frameworks, get, a little bit more flexible, a little bit easier. And I definitely want to take a look at that. And yeah, so hopefully you all are doing well. For anybody here, if you want to drop a like on the stream for me, that would be great. Hopefully you're all doing well. We're only 8 minutes in. I've been blabbing for 8 minutes now with not a whole lot of purpose. So let's see here. Let me go ahead, and I'm always nervous switching my OBS scenes. I have a little stream key, or what is this thing called? Stream deck down here, but I don't really use it, which is hilarious. I just click the buttons in OBS. Let's see. Richard says, I've recently been dabbling with Divi again. It's quite a capable builder, and I'm looking forward to the new UI that's under development. So yeah, I heard that there's a new UI coming and some kind of underlying rewrite. Is that true? To be more performance focused? I mean, there's a lot of people, especially like in communities such as the admin bar, where people will ask, what are you using? And it's like, there's a lot of people who build a lot of sites and make a lot of money with Divi and Beaver Builder and some of the things that people would consider like archaic, or not like performant focused. But I don't know, there's something to be said for honing in on the tool that you use, getting really dialed in with it, and spending an equal amount of time really marketing yourself and getting in front of people. It's a big reason why YouTube makes sense for any creator that does it. In some capacity, these creators are benefiting from it. Each of us have our own reasons for doing it, whether it's a true love and enjoyment of making the content, but you are benefiting one way or another. And typically that's financially. Oh gosh, I will switch from Divi we used on our animal welfare site to what builder? Divi 5.0, yeah. The other thing that I wanted to mention as well is that I have seen there's a GitHub issue that was opened up recently for the grid, an actual native grid implementation in GenerateBlocks. And recently, just yesterday or maybe this morning, Tom responded in the community on Facebook and said that they're working on it actively. Of course, the UI is difficult to get right for a real kind of native grid implementation, but I think if anybody does it right, it's going to be them. based on just simply the way that the flex alignment kind of quick controls work in GenerateBlocks, we can take a look at in a moment. That new implementation is really good, really clean. It's like Figma's. So, excuse me, I have to assume that their grid implementation is going to be bomb diggity. Kurt says, I've been holding off on GenerateBlocks until they implemented Rim, just downloaded the beta and started building right away. I think I might switch from Cadence. Yeah. I think Cadence has been viable for a while now. A big reason why I think people would choose it over GenerateBlocks was it just has more blocks out of the gate. But now, I mean, there's almost nothing that you can't do. I mean, really, that's true from before as well. But there's almost nothing that you can't do now, especially with these relative units and variables and stuff like that. Look at Framer, 50% commissions, and that's all that's been on YouTube lately. Oh, yeah. Exactly, Kyle. So true, man. Richard says, they're rebuilding Divi from the ground up. Performance is a focus now, but then there's a big release coming. Cool. That's really awesome. I wasn't sure what the latest was on that. Yeah, so I've touched on it a little bit, but let's go ahead and just take a look. I have this install set up, and I have GB 1.8 alpha and GB Pro 1.6 alpha. So what I wanted to do real quick is just show you what I was talking about with the flex controls here. So the inner container, and then it's this thing right here is what I'm talking about. So you can easily set your flex directions and align the items inside. Let's real quick, I'm just going to duplicate this a couple times so you can actually see this. And then the borders panel is cool. This is new. It's separated out now, which is pretty neat. And then colors. Oh, the border color is here. I'm not used to that yet. And then, oh, I guess if you choose your flex direction here, it's going to automatically go ahead and set flex and then direction of column, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's nice and easy, really simple. I guess we'd have to kind of go like that to see the controls, but you can see the way that works. I think that's really great. And this is just so dead simple, and it connects directly to the builder options, which, like I said, this is why I think that because the Generate team is working on Grid, it's going to be a really, really great implementation. So the other thing, obviously, is being able to have different units inside of your, let's see. Well, I guess it's Rim. Am I mistaken? I've just been blabbing on here. GenerateBlocks 1.8. Where's the post about it? Okay. All applicable block setting values now accept a wider range of values and units. Overhaul of the spacing controls. Do you just have to put what you want in there? Oh yeah, okay. So I guess you just drop it in. I didn't see, like Oxygen, has the like custom or none option. I just didn't see that. So I guess you could just do your variable. Do you just do it like that? Black or whatever? Does that just work? I mean, I don't have that variable defined, but I guess, okay. So yeah, you just pop that in and then it just takes the little unit away. Cool. Nice and easy. I was like, wait a second. Did I just make this up? Am I dreaming about this? But yeah, so that works. Cool. I see that you can just put whatever you want in there, which is great. So the other thing is, what do we want to look at first? So we have a few different options. I wanted to look at, possibly taking a look at Oxygen, because it's been a while since I've done that. And then also I was thinking about Bricks too. I haven't loaded that up. I'm not going to be switching, for the record. Anybody that asked, when are you switching to Bricks? Oh yeah, block labels, Kyle. That's another good one. I noticed this on a development site I'm working on. So as you add in content, test headline, you get a nice little block label there, which is great. It's just insane that it's taken the Gutenberg core team as long as it hasn't, I guess, because they still haven't done it, to do something like this. And then the wrap with heading. I also noticed the other day, add to container, wrap with container. They said that there's a way to unwrap it. You can undo it. Let's see. I just saw Tom's comment about that. I mean, I guess you can just drag it out of the container, so it doesn't really make any difference. But I could have sworn he said that you could do that too. Yeah, wrap with container is really, really great though. It's amazing how often you end up needing to do this, especially for flex layouts. Can you group multiple of them? Oh, I guess not. What if I undo that? If we have 4 of them, I guess you would just have to do 1, and then you can bulk drag the other ones in. That's not that big of a deal. That's easier though, because typically you're going to need to just wrap 1 element, and then you can pop the other stuff in. So yeah, I guess that's no big deal. Yeah, that's cool. I recommend if you have any interest in checking out more of these features, go look at Kyle's video. He's done 2 of them, and he spent more time with this than I have. But now that the alpha's out, I am actively working on a client site. There was a funny post. Somebody responded to the thread that was like, you know, alpha available now. Don't install this on production sites. And somebody put that meme that's like, okay, which is me. It's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to be not on a real like live production site, but definitely on a development site that will be live at some point in the near future. Definitely. So what do you want to look at now? Drop in the chat. Take a look at Oxygen. See what the 4.6 point, whatever it is, 2 now holds, because there's been a lot of changes since the last time I looked. I guess, I don't know what the active version would have been this time last year. 4 point something, I think. 4.0 maybe barely, or 4.1? I'm not exactly sure what it would have been. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I think 4.0 came out just after that stream happened. Yeah, okay. Interesting. It's funny to, like, I briefly watched part of that stream, and oh, awesome. All right, see you later. I watched briefly part of the stream, and Lewis says at the release of 3.0, oh yeah, let's take a look at that, Kurt. You're right. Before I go switching out themes and plugins and stuff like that, I'll just go ahead and leave this, and then let's pop in automatic CSS 251. Hopefully I'm using the correct version. And then I don't know what the setup process looks like. Hopefully I can just save and then it'll start working. Our color palettes. So it looks like we have some defaults, which is great. Okay. Accessibility, focus, outlines, buttons, spacings. There's a cheat sheet somewhere. Maybe it's not in here. I guess I have to go to the website and look at that. But now, if we have this, is there any change in the back end? I guess not really, because I'm not using any of the classes yet. This is like a, what am I trying to say? One of the early looks. I haven't seen automatic CSS with this layout. I think the last time I used it was on an Oxygen site for, gosh, what would it have been? Early 2022? Maybe late 2021. So it's been a while. I knew some of the cheat sheet classes off the top of my head. Okay, here, let's go look. So since I have this container, this is not set to flex, which is perfect. So we can kind of check out some of this. But on that add to container, if you multi-select blocks from the list view, start at the top and go around. Oh, okay. That I see now, Kyle. That's kind of a wacky one. Got to start from the top down instead of the bottom up. So let's check out a grid class. A Flexbox grid. I want a true grid. So it's grid. Let's just go grid 3. I don't think, Sony, I'm glad to hear that. At least I gave it a shot and it wasn't completely woeful. So if I drop the grid 3 class in here, I have actually 4 headline elements. I'm assuming this will just work. Maybe it works on the front end. Okay. So if I refresh, does it add the styles to the back end? No, I thought Kevin said this did work. Because he commented on my last stream and I was like, I don't know if this works in the builder just yet. I mean, I'm sure maybe there's something I'm doing wrong, but I added the grid 3 and it works on the front end. I wonder if there's something I need to do. Builder settings, variable expansion, context menu, style preview, Gutenberg. Oh, okay. I'm assuming they probably will build it in a way that detects what you have at some point. Replace default Gutenberg color palette with automatic. Generate Gutenberg color palette. Load automatic CSS style sheets in the block editor. So I think I would want this, wouldn't I? Okay, save. Okay, so there we go. That's all it needed to do, was just turn that on. Easy peasy. So then if I change it to grid 2, it just works. Okay, great. That's awesome. That is exactly what I was hoping for. And it's something that I know David and the team with the core framework were working on too, is an implementation of this. According to Kevin, there is something else coming. I don't think he said exactly what that is, as far as like a better way to work on these classes. But yeah, so let's take a look at some of the other ones for like headings. Padding, oh, I guess I would use a variable, wouldn't I? Is it text size? Font text? I don't know. Oh, okay, here we go. Text 700. Let's just pop that on one of these headings. Cool. So you could easily build a your own kind of default styles. So one thing that I think was just talked about was if you're using a GenerateBlocks global style, like for instance, one of the frustrating things is, let's just check a button. Go button, is it adding this border? Like a focus state? I guess that's an automatic CSS thing. That's interesting. Maybe it does that in other tools and I just wasn't familiar with it. One thing is that I found really kind of frustrating is that like if you set a icon on this button as a global style, then it's not maintained. And I don't think applying classes to them either works. So let's say text 700. It's almost like it needs to be a better form of a reusable component. Let me rename this button to just like primary. So there should be an icon and there should be a font weight on this. Of course, I'm not editing the page. So button, primary. Yeah, see, there's got to be a better way to do that. It's disappointing because, I mean, it would be really easy to set up a lot of pre-built elements. I guess you could just copy them somehow. Yeah, I remember Kyle reading their response to it, but it just seems like if I'm setting a global style, I would want every aspect of that to come over. Don't you agree? It's like, I don't know. It goes back and forth a little bit, I guess. I think I would want it to be the opposite of the way that it behaves now. But that's one thing that I thought was really cool about the core framework approach is the components. So I guess, well, actually, I guess that kind of goes back to a similar philosophy in that you still need to build the HTML and then you can just drop the CSS on it. I don't think so personally, because you could just not set it and then it would just, you either have it or you don't at your own discretion for your global style. You could just duplicate it, be like button with icon, button without icon. But it's semantics. That's not that big of a deal. It goes back to your point in the newsletter. Don't worry about this. Worry about promoting your business and find another way to get more clients. That's what actually matters. So it's cool to see that automatic CSS works in here. I think that with a little bit of time, you could build a really comprehensive set of kind of default styles that you could reuse. Although, you know, with the caveat of what we just discussed about the class component to it. So I have to imagine that these frameworks that are popping up with Gutenberg support, like automatic CSS and core framework, are going to find creative ways to interact with these sorts of things. It's no different than some of the gotchas that you run up against in Oxygen and Bricks. You know, there are definitely things, there are workarounds. There's just things that you have to accommodate for depending on your specific tool set. So there's that. It's exciting to see this stuff coming though, because obviously there's a lot of proponents of this, and the continued development that each of these frameworks are going to push each other towards is really great. And we all benefit from it. So anybody want to see any other parts of the framework in action? I mean, it's just as simple as it works. I guess this is a different page that I was editing. So I lied earlier when I said I didn't actually have this page edited. It just works. About as simple as that. Is there, I assume it's the same kind of gap. What is it? No, I'll try that though, Kyle. Gap. Well, I don't even know what the gap classes are. Is it M? Yeah, okay, there we go. Gap M. Easy peasy. That's nice. Okay, let's try with a heading. I just added a class for a font weight earlier. Let's do that in the... Oh wait, can I do that? Font weight. I guess I'd have to do that as a class. I can do the font size as, what's the automatic one? I forget again already. Text. Oh, variables. Var text XL. Font size. Does that get overridden? Did I do that wrong? Let's go take a look on the front end. Might be being overridden by the GeneratePress style. I mean, it's there. Oh, okay, it is changing. I guess the default is bigger. Yeah. Okay. What's another variable we can look at? Accent color. I don't actually know what the accent color was. Let's see. What's another one? Let's just go with... There's so many. Can you do the color? No. Okay. There's so many color ones. What do you want me to try, Kyle? Your call. Oh, really? You just pop it right in where the text was? Oh, cool. You're so smart. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that works obviously right there. So the variable's set up right like that. You've always been able to do that? Wow, I would have never guessed. For some reason, I see this color picker, and this just screams like hex RGBA to me. Like this just screams no flexibility for whatever reason. I don't know. Something about this, it just feels like the classic color picker that's been around for, 15 million years. That's pretty cool. I mean, most of the time, I guess it makes sense that it works because I'm just picking one of my GeneratePress global colors. So it actually, just it was using a variable anyway. So I don't know why I never thought to just pop a custom one in there. I guess because I didn't need to. I had already defined the global colors. 0, 100%, 50%. Cool. Yeah, that's great. Super handy. It's neat to see that that's working. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about a couple of streams ago, where it's like, well, you know, I want to build something that's really easy and simple. And I'm trying to think about a practical example of when building a site with Generate. I mean, it's like for simple things, like you want a subheading that, excuse me, you want a subheading that looks like an H2 or an H1, but it actually is the other, you know, things like that. Having a custom class that has those variables attached to it would be nice. So yeah, really components is what it comes down to. You can kind of build that out, pop the component in. Yeah, exactly. The look like classes. Yep. That way you can just drop it in and then it just works. So you don't have to spend time either creating another global style or whatever. I'm going to have to redo that in the new version though. Jake is going to work with me on it. Yeah, and that's kind of what I think is awesome about this support now is it opens up a whole nother world of possibilities. There's not many cases for me, I don't think. I'm trying to think of another situation where that would be beneficial. I just like the idea of having components that are just dropped in, that are kind of separated from a specific builder style. And then that way you're really flexible, keeps you really flexible long term. Theoretically then, with your child theme approach and the custom classes that you have set up for that, you could move to any other builder and you would still have a decent portion of your site kind of functioning. I guess except maybe for your layout stuff, you know, if you're doing that with the flex controls and that sort of thing. But you know me, trying to keep things as simple as possible. That's really the idea. So yeah, I think I've gone through as much as I want to see here. If you have any other questions in terms of GenerateBlocks stuff, please pop it in. But in the meantime, I want to go ahead and switch over into Oxygen. If we could just get that class box out of the advanced and make it easier to access, that would be helpful. Yeah, the video that David shared for his core framework is not quite what you're after, but all of the available classes for that tool end up in like a little drop down like this, and you just click in there and there's a list. You know, you can type to kind of Ajax search it and pick from the classes and the styles that are attached to it, which I feel like is pretty cool. But yeah, I agree. If the advanced tab, really just extracting the classes box out of advanced and putting it like up at the top or something, that'd be great. Getting closer and closer to our class first builder. I know, surely they can. Most definitely. Why can someone not do that? They absolutely can. Somebody committed enough needs to pull it up. Paging Taylor Drayson. Get to it, buddy. Taylor's our superhero coder. No variables in customizer. Is that a WordPress issue or a theme issue? Yeah, so you know, the theme part of it is GeneratePress. What we've been talking about so far is GenerateBlocks. So Kyle says, we raised an issue with Tom to have all the customizer settings saved as variables. I don't know if he'll do it, but he can. Let's hope so. That extra layer of flexibility would be great. There's actually quite a few places where it would be great to have better support there, like for your header padding. Or let's see. Where the hell is it? I always do this. Oh, I guess because I'm not on, I don't have all the premium modules turned on. But like for your header padding, and there's a few places like, you know, for the responsive controls, it'd be really great to have those. But I'm actually just most excited for the grid implementation. Tom talked about that, like I already said. Whenever that comes, it's going to be amazing. Also, this is it's incredibly unrelated. I was just looking at the little thing in YouTube here that's telling me my stream bitrate is higher than recommended. And I got a message this morning from my ISP that's like, hello, looks like you've exceeded your data cap. We've charged you. I'm like, oh, so frustrating. So frustrating. But here we are streaming because I wanted to. So here we are. Tom self-assigned this issue 3 weeks ago. Oh, okay. That's encouraging. You're talking about the GeneratePress theme variable one, right, Kyle? That issue, not the grid one? Because the grid one he opened a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even longer. So I've been kind of like eagerly awaiting that. No, it doesn't pop in for some reason, which is weird because I haven't completely banned you yet. The link hasn't come in. Oh, okay. Thanks. I see. Pull it up over yonder real quick. It's amazing how much you can find just by digging around in their GitHub. Write specific customizer settings to CSS variables like colors currently are. Let's say I use an option in the customizer typography and I set a font family and font size. Now I want all the headings of a third-party forms plugin to inherit those settings. Ideally, my customizer settings generated CSS variables that I can reference to tie in external styles together. I'd love to be able to declare something like this. Currently, I add some base root declarations. There's so many downstream changes that could be streamlined if they were automatically inherited. +1. I'll go ahead and upvote this. Am I logged in? Yeah. Oh my gosh, it didn't it didn't respond quickly enough, so I clicked it again and it went back down. Cool. Oh, so you said he self-assigned it. Cool. That's really great. Rob says, are you on Comcast? I was able to have them remove my data caps for an extra $20 a month. I actually, we normally get really, really close to the data cap just with, streaming and well, I mean like watching Netflix and YouTube and stuff, plus this sort of streaming and like video game downloads and stuff. But the extra like unlimited cap is $50 more. So it was just like, normally the thing is like $10, I think, per overage for like 20 extra gigs or something obscene like that. And so normally we get really close, but we don't actually go over. But the thing that I'm holding out for is there's a new company in our area that's installing fiber internet, and that's going to have no data caps, faster speed, and then the price is like less than half of what I'm paying now. It's really, really crazy. I know, Richard, the data cap thing is so frustrating because there's like torrents that I want to seed and, just like video games that I want to download, backups I want to run, get offsite backups for some stuff. And it's just like, it's insane. I mean, it's just because here in my county in Florida, we have no other option until this other company has come in. And it's funny because this company has been making kind of a scene. They've been drumming up business. This goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this stream. They have come in. They've drummed up a huge amount of attention. They have trucks all over town. They've been buying billboards. They're sponsoring sports teams. They are all over the place, everywhere. And now, who comes back but the current incumbent ISP? They're parking trucks down the highway with signs that's like, Gulf Fiber coming soon. And it's like, of course, that's two separate things we're talking about. But this other company has made such a splash and drummed up so much interest. People are posting about it on Facebook. They're like, hey, do you guys have this fiber company yet? And people are saying, no, not yet, but it's coming soon. And everybody's hyped. And they're like, go sign up on the waiting list. And then that makes enough of a ruckus that the incumbent then has to start making moves too. So it's funny. It does all go back to Kyle. It's exactly what we discussed. I mean, if that doesn't summarize exactly what we're talking about, where like ultimately this shit here that we're discussing, this is a nice to have. This is not critical. There's many of us that are doing a lot of revenue without this kind of stuff, and we're not using these tools like Bricks and Oxygen. We're not worrying about BIM class names and all that kind of stuff, and we're still doing well. So it all kind of goes back to that. Yeah, exactly, Rob. You just touched on precisely what I just said. When you were in Nashville, Comcast never upgraded anything till Google Fiber stepped in. Yeah, it's kind of true of any business. If there's an incumbent in the area, they can kind of just roll along. And it's kind of like the auto parts store near where I used to live. There was one that was really janky and run down, and the people in there were not friendly. It just almost never had what you actually needed. Then it was an O'Reilly's, and I didn't like going to them. I would drive to the next city over to go to the Advanced Auto Parts because it was nicer, better, more affordable, all that kind of stuff. But then they open an AutoZone in my town. Then an Advanced shows up. And then who gets better and refreshes their building and steps it up? But O'Reilly's. It's the exact same thing. It's true of any business. The exact principles we're talking about don't change even slightly. It's all exactly the same. Oh, I didn't realize my camera's been off this whole time. That's funny. Hello. Not that anybody wants to actually see me, but here I am again. That's funny. No, nobody wanted to see me, so nobody said anything. That's hilarious. Oh, man. Okay, well, cool. That's about all I want to cover for now in this generate stuff. Let's go ahead and clear this noise out. Just to keep my setup clean, I'm going to disable automatic CSS, and then let's go ahead and disable these three. And what I want to do now is go ahead and upload Oxygen 462. Pop this in. It's funny because I was actually just talking to Elijah about this, how it's like I haven't used Oxygen in any great depth in, a year, essentially. I still have many clients that I support on it, but it's like the muscle memory of remembering exactly how to do everything. I mean, it's just like you can just really start like popping stuff in, pages. I just remember every facet of this. It's funny how that muscle memory really just builds up and you don't forget. You definitely don't forget. Okay, so I actually wanted to pull up, is there like an Oxygen change log somewhere? I wanted to just see some of the main pieces of this. 4.7. Oh, that's June 9th. Never mind. What's the 4.7 bringing? Code mirror, autocomplete, code folding, full search and replace. Mixed code view, that's kind of nice. 4.6. Custom HTML tags for repeaters. Cool. Uh-oh, I think I just broke my armrest. Or at least the foam inside of it. Whoopsie daisy. Final stable 1.4.4 version of Oxygen's Gutenberg integration. Enhancement, add lady loading option. Choose tag for repeater. Okay. 4.6. 4.5. Emmet integration. That's not something I've played with, so we can check that out. I wanted to go through this because I know that there's stuff that I've missed. It's funny, I actually I unsubscribed from the SoFly email list because I didn't care about the breakdance stuff, and it unsubscribed me from Oxygen updates too. Whoopsie daisy. Style sheets editor. Where's 4. I guess I could search for these things, couldn't I? 4.3, and then 4.2. And then what is 4.1? Oh, that's 4.1.1. There we go. Okay. So 6 was the custom HTML tags. 4.5 is Emmet. 4.4 is style sheets editor. Native site navigation element. Okay, I haven't played with that. That'll be cool. Unwrap code block, PHP and HTML. Automatic unit swapping. And then cross-site copy and paste. Field expansion. I feel like I remember this one. Better revisions management. Okay. All right. So, div. We'll just pop in a couple of divs here. It's weird having the controls on the left side instead of the right. I'm used to the other way around. So I can do keyboard shortcuts, right? Yeah, perfect. Okay. And then got to add me a little class here. Oh no. My child is yelling out there about not being able to connect to the internet. Am I still live here? I'm wondering if it's a temporary disconnect. Let me know if we're still good to go. I think we're good. I haven't gotten any notices from YouTube, so I think we're set here. Okay, let's rock and roll. I think we're good. Cool, thanks, Rob. Field expansion for easier use of CSS functions. So if you're writing var padding XL, right? Oh, okay, I guess you have to switch it to none first. I guess when you click it, then it expands. Okay. Cross-site copy and paste. I don't have a second site to copy this with, so that's okay. Then unwrap code block. What does that mean? Use a simple checkbox to unwrap your code on the front end, enabling you to output raw. Oh, cool. That's neat. There's many times with tutorials where that would have been really handy, but I guess I wasn't ever designing post content in Oxygen, so that wouldn't actually have helped me. But that's okay. Automatic unit detection. I think every good builder has that these days, where you can just type it in right as you're going along and it will switch. Okay. I know it feels weird, Kyle. It feels so familiar and yet so weird. There are times when I kind of miss it, but then also like this kind of goes back to what I was originally wanting to discuss in the overall, topic of this stream, which was more like not looking back, but more current and forward thinking, which was like, there's a lot of pieces to this where, because of the power that Oxygen and tools like Bricks, and probably even to some degree quickly kind of empower you with, you have a tendency to overcomplicate. You end up, working with these huge, arrays of classes, and you're having to build everything from the ground up. There's small things that you don't really realize until you step back away from using a tool like Oxygen or Bricks, where styling contact forms is a lot harder. Plugins don't inherit default theme styles because there are no default theme styles. There's a lot of quality of life kind of jumps where, you're balancing those trade-offs, but the tendency to overcomplicate is really great. And then you also have this tremendous power. So you're able to take on clients that have more complicated requirements and projects that are bigger, and the scope creep potential is massive. And that's kind of the trap that I fell into, was building these sites that was, it was fun to build them. I still do that with blocks, but now I'm a lot more intentional about the types of projects I take on. And it's worth saying that, me switching to blocks has meant no dip in revenue. It's meant no dip in technical capability. In fact, both of those things have gone up, I think, as a result of, being more intentional about the types of clients I take on and the workflow and that kind of thing. And it's really like, as of right now, I have the least amount of client work I've ever had. And I'm pushing last month and this month up against my best months ever. But the thing is, my expenses are also way lower, because when I needed somebody to plug in to Oxygen in terms of an additional developer help, those people are going to charge you an arm and a leg, rightfully so, because their skill set is high enough that they warrant that kind of fee. And it's like, you can't really just plug somebody into an Oxygen site. They really need to know the fundamentals of HTML and CSS. They need to know how the builder works. And yeah, you can learn that just like I did, just like most of us did when we came into Oxygen, starting off from nothing. But it's kind of like that silly sounding adage of like, absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's like, in some ways, I did that to myself, where I was taking on these projects that were so complex, I probably should have never said yes to, but I was like, well, we have Oxygen, we can do this, we can build anything. And that's a really bad spot to be in. I mean, Kurt just said, that's the balance I'm trying to find now, wanting to be more professional, but the learning process is slowing my production. That's the crux of this, is that the tool needs to be a beneficial aspect to your workflow. It doesn't need to be the crutch. Like you can build pretty much anything in any framework or any builder. It's just really like, I think the most important thing is honing in on what are you good at? What can you excel at? What can you churn out really quickly? For me, I've been building these like custom user dashboard kind of sites inadvertently for like 5 years now. I'm really good at them. I know what the ins and outs are. I know the pitfalls and the things that I have to watch out for. And so for me, I can take on those big projects. But as a consequence of that, they are complex. So I don't have that many at any one given time. But I've made the decision that I like to go that route instead of having 6 or 8 small business clients at one time. In terms of the demand on my brain power and my time, even though these 2 sites that I have now are way more complicated, it's like the overall revenue is still as high, if not higher. My work-life balance is better. So yeah, I mean, it's all connected. It really is all connected. Kurt says, I've been dabbling in bricks, but it seems like such a drastic change compared to blocks. It is, absolutely. I mean, just the fact that like, take for instance, I mean, Oxygen is active, so I'll just disable it real quick. Well, actually, before I do that, take for instance the fact that if I load up this Oxygen site, I have literally nothing. This isn't a knock on Oxygen or bricks. This is actually a benefit in some cases. This page has 4 divs on it. So it's like, well, there's a bunch of other shit in here right now. You get the idea. Where's my freaking body tag? Yeah, here we go. There wasn't actually a body tag. Oh, it's up there. Never mind. Because I set a template, thankfully. But anyway, here's my point. There's my divs. There's nothing there. So you're faced with building this from the ground up every time. And then with something like GeneratePress or GenerateBlocks, you at least have a great foundation to start from. You have a lot of global styling you can tap into with fonts and colors and spacings and all that kind of stuff just built right out of the gate. So, it depends on really what you're trying to do. I think it depends on what kind of sites you want to work on. What is that balance for you of enjoyment of the work and the kinds of clients you can get? Where are you promoting yourself and what are you telling people that you can do? I have been fortunate with YouTube videos to acquire a lot of clients, and specifically people who have seen other tutorials of mine on, some of the more complex sites, and they have a need for that. So, that's how I've been able to get in front of people. And, that reach is tremendous. So it took me a long time to really recognize that I needed to hone in on that and put more emphasis on it. Even still, I dabble in some of the other smaller sites and there are pitfalls. Either way, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a few different types of clients that you work with. But, for me, it's that workflow balance where I don't want to be in the weeds anymore of every single little nitty gritty detail. It's like if I wanted to build this header because I'm in my main template right now, you also need to be cognizant. How did I get to 7? That's weird. I wanted 3 divs side by side like that. Doesn't really matter. In the weeds. There's a perfect example. It's like, oh, my column count is 7. How did that happen? What I was going to say though, is if you're building your header, you got to come down here to your tag and you got to set the header and you got to make sure that anything you want inside of that header tag is wrapped inside of this div. And it's like, well, with something like Generate, you have your header and it's already set up for you. There's already a skip to content link for accessibility. So there's a lot of stuff you have to factor in. I mean, sounds like I'm hating on Oxygen and bricks and tools like that. And really the thing is, I'm not going to be the one to tell you that it's the wrong way to do it. It's like, it really comes down to what's your workflow and what's your preference. So everybody has their soapbox and what they feel is correct, especially in these builders. It reminds me so much of like when the PlayStation 3 came out and there was the Xbox 360, there was like the console wars. They literally called it a console war of like, who's going to choose PS3 or Xbox. And if you had one, you hated the other. It's like in the US, it's like Ford versus Chevy. It's like F-150 or my Chevy 1500. Like, fly my flag on the back and my whip antenna. It doesn't matter. They're the same thing. They both have a V8 motor. They both do the exact same shit. They both gas guzzlers. They both get you from A to B most of the time. So it's like, you know, really depending on your situation and your use case, that's that decision. And for me, like I said in the thumbnail of this stream, I made the correct choice for my business. Revenue's up, client work is down. You know, it's a personal decision. Nobody can convince you otherwise. And spending time worrying about, you know, what framework you're going to use or what builder you're going to use is ultimately not going to move the needle. It's going to take you, I think it's worth mentioning though, Kurt, like you said, feels like a drastic change. Either direction that you go is going to feel like a drastic change. You're not going to get proficient with something, you know, going back to what Kyle says, all hail Kyle. I remember very distinctly, I said this in my like Oxygen kind of going away post. Kyle walked me through working with blocks and Generate early last summer. And I remember him distinctly telling me, you're going to have to rebuild your first and maybe even your second site because you're going to do it wrong and you'll realize like, oh, there's these other better ways to do it. And I could take you to the exact spot that I was sitting working on the very first client site that I did with blocks. And pretty shortly, within a few couple of months, I was like, oh God, it's so bad. So many things that I can fix. But that's also true of the first few Oxygen sites I did, and probably still many of the Oxygen sites I did. But yeah, I don't know. Really is, it goes either way. I'm curious of those of you watching, which builder are you actively using? I'm sure some people have their feet in multiple, but I'm curious, where do you land in terms of your primary at this point? Are you blocks, Oxygen, bricks? Where are you at? I want to reactivate Oxygen because I still wanted to keep playing around with it. I guess I should probably save and then refresh. The New Yorkian says breakdance. Interesting. That feels true for most of my sites. Yeah, Kurt. Bricks, says Sarah. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, it's all good. Thanks for the kind words, but no big deal. Water under the bridge. Doesn't make any difference to my day-to-day life. Just sits on my channel and still gets comments to this day. How does the Emmet integration work? The Kyle stream? Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah, for sure. Brick, says Rob. I figured there'd be quite a few Bricksites. Anybody that jumped ship from Oxygen around that time typically went to Bricks. I think I was one of the few outliers. I think I was one of the few people that made the leap. So with the Emmet integration, I don't actually even know how it works. Do you just go like div and then dot like class? How do you do Emmet? Where's the Emmet integration? How do you do it? Where did it go? Insert elements via Emmet. Where do you put it? I thought I saw Elijah do it in one of his tutorial videos just here in this search component. Div. It's not in the classes box. I wonder if there's like a tutorial on it. Oxygen Emmet integration. To activate Emmet, press Command-Shift-E. Oh. Command-Shift-E. Oh, okay, okay. Still shows up when you Google Lewis's name. It's funny that I just said it, but that stream still gets comments regularly. People being like, "Oh my god!" It's like, yeah, it was wild. This shit was wild. It was actually really interesting because, in the moment when it was popping off, I was like, and Lewis was saying the stuff like us creators didn't do anything for Oxygen and those kinds of things. I think I was just in like such shock and disbelief. It wasn't even really striking me. I was just like zombified as I was sitting there. And I remember people in the chat being like, oh, people like you and Kevin and all the people that were in the chat were just like, oh my God. And I was just sitting there like, where am I? Is this actually happening right now? It's crazy. Okay, so if I do div dot, let's just say like test class, I think that adds a div with a class on it, doesn't it? So yeah, it is like CSS. That's pretty sick. I wonder, can you leave the emit panel open permanently? I guess not. I guess you constantly have to press the Control-Shift-E thing. Control-Shift-E. Type emit. Section with div. Add multiple elements. You can just use the child, sibling, and multiplication operators. So div and then div dot another class, div h2, and then column. Oh, spaces are not allowed. Where did I do a space? Did I do a space? Shows what I know. I just wanted to do something more complicated. I wonder if I get rid of this. I don't know. Clearly this is not for me. If I do section div, I didn't do a space. Div. I guess that's not how the commas work. Do you do div like that? What the? Oh, it's a plus. Oh, I see. Okay, that's all it was. I was just doing it wrong. I think that could be pretty cool if you're using this regularly and you have like some kind of predefined sections. You could probably just have some like text expander shortcuts, which would be pretty sick to pop those in. Kind of similar to how you can create text expander shortcuts in blocks, because you can just like strip the IDs, or I guess it's technically a class. It's not an ID to be specific, but you can easily pop those in. There are cases where you might run into styling issues, kind of like if you had a hidden class or something, attached to it. But this is very similar. You could create emit text expander shortcuts, which would be pretty cool. New Yorkian says, what's to you the best building tool to get some scroll animations and stuff like Webflow? Use Motion Page. Doesn't matter what builder you use, Motion Page is the way to go. It's complicated, but if you really want that kind of like scroll animation stuff, just learn GSAP and use Motion Page. It is definitely the way to go. Richard says, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have heard of Oxygen. Yeah, dude. I mean, thank you for saying that, but that's true of many people, I think. So yeah, I didn't have any impact for sure. So Emit's pretty cool. I probably would use this if I used Oxygen regularly. That's pretty cool. Where were we? Site navigation. That's actually one thing I wanted to look at, because this is something Elijah mentioned he spent a long time on making sure that it was as it. Oh, that's not Emit. That's not what I want. Site. How do I get rid of site emit? How do I do that? I want my search bar back. What? Go away. Give me my search bar back. To get back to normal search box, you can either click the icon in the emit input box or press Command-Shift-A. Oh, I see. There we go. Site navigation. Oh, I guess I need a WordPress menu. Let's go do that real quick. Main menu. I have 2 homes and 1 sample page. Nice. Oh, save. Refresh. I assume I have to refresh because that was the bane of your existence with Oxygen before. Refresh, refresh, refresh. Okay, just kind of popping through these panels real quick because I haven't really looked at this. I remember something he shared is that, you know, there's a precarious balance between customization and accessibility. And that's something that might strike you if you make the leap to GeneratePress as your theme instead of using something like Oxygen. At first is the menu is basic. And I think the thing to keep in mind though is that it's accessible. So it's like there's that trade-off there. You know, that kind of goes back to the other facet we were talking about earlier in terms of like, you know, your sort of desired workflow and the way that you want to build sites. For me, I want to give my best effort to accessibility. And there are certain things that I don't want to think about and certain things that don't make sense for me to spend time on, like skip to content links and my navigation being accessible, because the navigation should be simple enough that you don't need to worry about building custom mega menus and stuff. And if you do, still need to give some consideration to that. But that was one thing that struck me, you know, because now there's 3 menu components in Oxygen. There's like the menu, the pro menu, and the site navigation element. And this is the one to use for accessibility. So you have general styles, use transparent background, disable current menu underline, some basic animations, CTA styles. Oh, this one's cool. Style last items as CTA. That's cool because you can do that with a class pretty easily. You know, you can just pop a custom class onto your menu item. Description and image. I don't recognize that. I guess that's I don't know. I don't know where that came from. I don't recognize that. Typography, easy peasy. Not going to worry about that. Icons, link icons. Icon size. Drop down icon. Music. I don't have a drop down, so I guess that's not going to work. Okay, well, that's cool. I like the fact that you can make it work. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you know, there it is. This is really similar to the way that you can customize the menu in GeneratePress in the customizer with colors and typographies and, you know, a custom class here or there. Pretty straightforward, relatively simple. Okay, got the Emmet one, looked at that. Style Sheets editor, I think you can do that outside of the builder. Isn't that how that works? Yeah, so I don't have a style sheet, but that's nice. The Matthias Altman, his code snippet for editing style sheets outside of the builder was really handy, along with his font situation. Forget what that thing was called. That's still a popular video. People still watch that. Style sheets editor, site navigation, custom HTML tags for repeaters. That was a big one because I wanna look at that. I don't really have anything to repeat though, so I guess this is not really gonna work. Because you can do the repeater element itself, but now I guess you can do the div. Is that the idea? Yeah, it really is, especially for newbies. I mean, if what they say is true about it continuing to sell, imagine coming in and you're like, which one do I use? Why is this here? Huh? Yeah. Or you can just not think about it and make your WordPress menu like you can in GeneratePress and move on. Again, not hating on the people that have continued to use Oxygen, but for me, it just does not make any sense. That's an element of your site that should have some attention, but you don't need to be spending massive amounts of time on it deciphering 3 different menu components. Yeah, I'm glad somebody else doesn't. It must be an Oxygen thing. I mean, we could test that real quick simply by disabling Oxygen, go back to the menus. So I guess it is Oxygen. Yeah, disabling that. There must be something tied into that site navigation element. Maybe you can pop that in as little like ARIA labels or something. Must be what that is. Let me activate it again. Let's just go with like description, test, description. Do I have any images on this site? No. wonder if I can pull one up real quick. I'll pop one in just to see what it does. Let's put this dog. Copy this. I'll just use, oh wow, it's a long URL. I'll just use the relative URL, save, and then I think I deleted that component. Let me save and refresh this, and let's see what it does. Site navigation. Oh, cool. That's actually pretty neat. You can just, there's the dog image and the test description we popped in there. General styles. Can you hide that stuff? I thought 2 was confusing and just used pro because I wanted to be a pro. Well, you were because you watched my content. Yeah, so that's kind of neat. It definitely is an Oxygen Pro menu component that it adds. So there we go. So the repeater. Let me go back to this. In 4.6, you can create truly semantic dynamic HTML structures from repeaters using the custom tag. Choose any valid HTML tag to wrap your repeater divs in. You can also set the repeater divs themselves to any tag. Okay, gotcha. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, somebody who knows this better than me will remind me, but I know you could set the repeater itself to a tag for a while. I guess now, since you can actually click, you know, the div that would contain your stuff to be looped, you can set that div tag as well, or, you know, change your custom tag to, like it said in the example, list item or whatever. Or I guess it would actually be here. It would be OL and then, you know, LI, but there's nothing there, so it's not going to work. It does have something there, which is cool. So I guess there's something. I don't know what it's pulling from, but yeah, that just enables you to create more dynamic semantic stuff. But again, this goes back to what we're talking about. It's like, how much do you need this? I guess you could do this for stuff like FAQ schema, which would be pretty cool. This would make customizing things for schema purposes easier. Or you can use the GenerateBlocks accordion and turn on schema. Oh no, it's empty. Gonna have to end the stream soon and go get more. Yeah, that's cool. That's a nice quality of life. Lazy loading for gallery and video images. That's nice. I don't recall using perf matters much with Oxygen, but for me, perf matters is the best way to lazy load, and it's got the iframe replacement for YouTube video embeds, which is really great. I wonder why lazy loading does not work with the flex gallery layout, but it works with masonry and grid. That's an interesting one. And then this one, code mirror, autocomplete for CSS and JS. Let's pop in a code block. Wait, why is it not doing what it said with the little like panel thing? Easily swap from the mixed view to full-size editors. Where is it? Wrap, editor theme, Dracula. How do I turn you on? Mixed code view. What am I overlooking? Hopefully Elijah watches this back and he can get some some feedback, some UX UI feedback from people who haven't looked at this in a while. Is it not for code blocks? Surely it must be. That's so strange. Collapse editor? Nope. Well, doesn't really make any difference. Don't know where it is. All good. And I guess that's it. Those are the main things for Oxygen. So, it's continued development. I'd be curious, does anybody watching currently still use Oxygen as your daily driver? Because I would really love to hear what people who are using this as, the number one builder think of the development over the last year. Because that was one of the big things that, Lewis promised in the stream, is that Oxygen is going to continue development. Obviously it has, and I love Elijah, and he's a great dude. So, no shade being thrown, but I'm just curious what the thought is in terms of how it's developed. Are you happy with it? What do you think? For me, I think if I was using this, I would have to be a really advanced developer to be stoked about a lot of these changes. Emmet is pretty cool. Cross-site copy and paste is more like a critical quality of life feature. The code view stuff, nice quality of life, but again, if I'm an advanced developer. So I don't know. It feels like there's been some good development, but not anything like revolutionary. But then again, is there room for more revolutionary development? I wonder. Like, what's the Oxygen, progression curve look like? Where are we on that curve? Where are we on that curve for GenerateBlocks and GeneratePress and Bricks and any of the other tools? What does that look like? Are you at the top of the curve and you're basically just like creating little quality of life improvements? I don't know. It's hard to say. And then, yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to cover today. We talked about a lot of different things, and hopefully some of my ramblings about workflow and quality of life improvements give you something to think about. Don't fall into the trap of which builder is best. Figure out which one is best for you, not which one is best on some arbitrary basis of classes. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, please do. Also, the CSS course that I have is open for early access purchase right now. So that means the first 7 modules are available and open for you. You can purchase and get access to them right now. Module 8 is underway and will be available next week. And then there's 2 more to come after that. So I'm really stoked. Hopefully that's of interest to you. Other than that, that's all I have for you today. I'm going to tear out. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out. Hopefully the last year has been good to you, and the next year will continue to be good to you, as it has for me. And with that, hope you all have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week.